Weird. Not only does our body need oxygen, but it needs to get rid of something as well. Your body is constantly needing oxygen to burn, and it is constantly producing, very good, carbon dioxide, and we need to get rid of that. And so we call that process gas exchange. We're bringing oxygen into the blood, and we're getting carbon dioxide out of the blood. So, with that in mind, we're going to start lesson 3.4, and we're going to start it with yet another reminder of grade 9 science and then grade 10 science, presumably. We're going to remind ourselves about our cellular respiration.
That was a good line.
Yes. Is slightly slanted down, though, because the universe hates me.
I don't know.
That apostrophe should be at the end because I'm doing a possessive of a plural. In our cells, mitochondria, sugars react with oxygen to produce energy. This is called cellular respiration. Now that's kind of a borrowed term, cellular respiration, because it incorporates the word respiration, which obviously is related to our respiratory system. Can somebody remind me what the general chemical formula of a sugar is? So inside of our cells, you're thinking DNA, which has a sugar and a phosphate and a nucleotide, and that's all true, but actually I want to focus on, these are the mitochondria of the cell, right? And if you were to zoom in on one of those, we get a look at this organelle that kind of looks like this. It's got this double-walled membrane that then folds around like that. And inside here, if we were to zoom in even further, basically we have sugar molecules, which we typically draw like this. Oh, that's not going well. Reacting with oxygen. All right, we have sugars reacting with oxygen. What's the chemical formula? A sugar is a 5-carbon ring with an oxygen and then one more carbon up here. So it has 6 carbons. So C6. How many hydrogens? Does anyone remember? C6H12O6. Grade 9 science. That is the generic form of a hexose sugar, the most common of which is what? What's the most common sugar that we find in our body? Yep, glucose. Good. There are other sugars, of course. Yeah. Sucrose is a glucose and a fructose stuck together. Fructose is another sugar. There's galactose. There's a bunch of them. But lactose, yep, absolutely. Yep. Oh, you bet. And it's going to react with oxygen. Now, when it reacts with oxygen, what does this get broken apart into? It bashes that sugar, it breaks it apart. It breaks it into different pieces. Doing my job for me, and I appreciate it. So yeah, so this thing's going to get smashed apart. The oxygen is literally going to break it into pieces and stick to it. That's what happens when we burn something. Oxygen just rams into stuff and breaks it apart. That's the chemistry of it. When all the carbons break apart, they're going to end up stuck to oxygen. What do they form? Carbon. CO2. Does that make sense? Each of those carbons is going to end up stuck to an oxygen. So how many oxygens do we need then? If each of those carbons ends up stuck to an oxygen to make CO2, how many of these do we need? 6. And how many carbon dioxides will we get? Yeah, good. Beautiful. And then what's left over? H12O6. But that's not going to stay a big H12O6 molecule. There's no such thing. But what do you notice about that ratio? Twice as much hydrogen as oxygen. What are we making? Good. Which has a formula of? Great. And how many of those can we get from this? Good. And then we also get the reason we do this. Energy. Okay. So, this is the basic formula. Now, this is the thing. This is oxygen, which we get from the atmosphere. Most animals get, well, that's actually not true. Land animals get their oxygen from the atmosphere. Most aquatic animals get their oxygen where? From dissolved in water. Some aquatic animals get it from the atmosphere. They have to come to the surface and breathe. What would be an example of that? Whales, dolphins, right? And amphibians, obviously, they have lungs. They get their oxygen from the atmosphere. But we'll say the atmosphere for us. If we're talking about the human respiratory system, if you shove your head underwater and start breathing, it doesn't go well for you. Don't do that. Okay, we get our oxygen from the atmosphere. Now, on the other side of the equation, this carbon dioxide, this is a waste product. And we release it. And where do we release it to? Yeah, we release it to the atmosphere, right? We take oxygen out of the atmosphere and we put carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. What's our body do with the water? Yeah, not nutrients, just it's used as water. Our body needs water for all kinds of stuff. Your cells are full of water. In fact, our cells are all designed to be full of water all the time. And for aquatic animals, that works out pretty well. For us land-based animals, the sun is always trying to steal your water. The wind is always trying to steal your water. Dust is always trying to steal your water. And so we need to constantly replace our water. So actually, every time we burn a sugar, we get a little bit more water. So that's good. It actually means you would have to drink a whole lot more often to stay hydrated if we didn't get some water from burning sugar. But we do. So that's a good deal. And then obviously the energy is used to do stuff. And that's a very scientific term, used to do stuff. That's a scientific term meaning things. You're welcome. You learned something today from an Italian. All right. So this is, yes. Energy, you'll actually learn about this if you take grade 12 chemistry. Energy is energy is energy. So for example, this reaction, if I went and got a pile of sugar right now, I put it in a dish, and I light it on fire and get it burning, it will do exactly this. It will make carbon dioxide, and it will make water, and it will release energy. And if I burned it here and now on the table, what would that energy, how would I experience that energy? Heat. In your cell, we actually have a way of capturing that energy in another molecule that's better used as a short-term kind of almost like a battery. You've got these little molecules in your cell called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. You don't have to worry about this in grade 11, but I'll mention it so you kind of understand. And they are also a molecule that can store energy, but they're kind of cool because they are designed to bind to all kinds of different machines in your cell and then give that energy to that kind of machine, to your proteins. So your proteins, the ones that need energy, all have these ATP binding sites, and the ATP can come bind to it and give it the energy, and it can be used to do something. So your muscles have ATP binding sites, and this ATP can bind to it and say, okay, now shorten a bit. And then another ATP can bind up and say, shorten a bit more. And that happens over and over again, and that's how your muscles contract. But your cell isn't designed to use glucose directly. We take the glucose, we burn it, we store that energy in another molecule, and then we use that molecule directly to do stuff. You don't have to know any of that for this course, but it's kind of helpful to know what's going on. Now, some of the energy actually does get wasted and released as heat. And if your cells are burning through sugars really quickly, they heat up. You've experienced this. Legitimately, you ever been writing an exam or doing something really mentally taxing and it literally feels like your forehead is like burning up and you're getting hot? It is. Your brain is using a ton of energy, and some of its energy gets wasted as heat. When you work out, you're making your muscles work really hard, and most of that energy is getting turned into motion, but some of it's being wasted and turned into heat, and so your muscles heat up. Does that make sense? So some of the energy actually does get released as heat, but your body tries to trap as much of it as it can and turn it into useful energy in the form of this little molecule called ATP that we can use to make proteins run. That's basically ATP's function. It binds to proteins and makes them do whatever their job is. Was that a helpful answer?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I would see plus energy all the time. I was like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, and again,
It just means energy.
it means energy, and energy can exist in different forms. Energy could be turned into light if we want. Energy can be turned into heat. Energy can be turned into motion. Energy can be turned into sound. Yeah, pressure, that's right. So energy can look like a lot of different things. That was a great question. It was a good one. How's that feel? So basically, our body needs to get oxygen to every cell and CO2 from every cell. So every cell in your body needs to get oxygen, and every cell in your body needs to get rid of CO2. And you got a lot of cells, hundreds of billions of cells all over your body. And every one of them is going to need oxygen, and every one of them is going to need you to get rid of CO2. And if that cell doesn't get oxygen, it'll die. And if that cell doesn't get rid of its CO2, it'll die. So that has to happen constantly. I'm going to add the word constantly here. Again, your body can figure out how to live without food for days, weeks really, water for days. It can conserve, it can whatever. But oxygen, it needs it too readily. You can only last, I think we looked this up, was it this class we looked up the record for holding your breath? Because I can't remember it now. But the record for holding your breath is like a few minutes, which is pretty crazy in its own right. I couldn't hold my breath for a few minutes, but you know. No, that wouldn't be a record for holding your breath. That would be a record for dying. I mean, everyone dies eventually.
Okay. All right. So
We're back to this. This comes up a lot in this class. I feel like that message would have sunk in by now, but
I told you.
29. There's no.
Almost 30.
No way.
yeah, 29 minutes, 3 seconds.
With
I think
oxygen,
he
it's
lied.
just like static breath.
I think he
holds.
lied.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they get
I don't
like
think
pure
he did.
oxygen and it lets them.
He's breathing through his nose. I think that's nice.
No, so what that means is that first you get to take in pure oxygen, which is going to dramatically increase, because normally in air there's only like 20% oxygen. So if you take a deep breath of pure oxygen, you're getting a huge advantage, right? Because that's got 5 times as much oxygen as a normal deep breath would have. And then it's sitting very still, which doesn't really appeal to me, but you know. Now, I wonder what's while diving. So while doing an actual dive.
I got like neurological issues.
No, see, that's not
after that.
right. No.
No?
No.
If you go that long without like it going to your brain.
It's going to.
No, but like
Your body does have oxygen. So the people who train to hold their breath.
explain what I mean.
No, I know what you mean. If you get hypoxia, if your brain gets oxygen deprived, it can have short-term damage.
Yeah.
And then if that carries on, you can have long-term damage. This guy certainly would have been feeling some short-term effects.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
For sure. Like without a doubt. You're going to feel loopy. You're going to feel spacey. You're going to, yeah, for sure. But I'm imagining they would have a doctor on site and make sure he wasn't doing long-term damage. I hope we wouldn't let some idiot like do brain damage for the sake of holding a record. That seems dumb, but maybe we would. I don't know. You let athletes do all kinds of things. Yeah.
How do you even train your body to do that?
I don't know. I don't know if you've noticed this. I don't really train my body to do much, but my understanding is practice.
I would assume your diaphragm because like when you play the instrument,
Right.
you can hold
Practice.
it longer, so your diaphragm.
Now, have you ever seen circular breathers? This is a different thing.
That's cool.
This is people who've trained themselves. If they play a trumpet or something else with an embouchure, they've trained themselves to keep air in their cheeks and keep breathing out through their mouth, not from their lungs, not from their diaphragm, but just from their mouth, while breathing in through their nose, so they can hold a note essentially forever. because they can just keep breathing in while they breathe out, which is crazy.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you think he played an instrument then? Like the dude who
Guy was a swimmer, and swimmers are, and divers, like divers, because like free divers, like say pearl divers or something, they dive down to deep depths and like they do it without oxygen assist, so you just have to hold your breath the whole time you're going down, which is pretty crazy. Yeah. You know what I'd rather be doing? Breathing. Big fan of breathing. You know, been doing it 42 years now, and it served me pretty well, let me tell you. Breathing, would recommend. Anyway, I'm going to fill out a Yelp review on breathing. 4.5 stars. Anyway, okay. So, our respiratory system exchanges gases with the atmosphere. Or I should say between the atmosphere. I'm sorry. Don't call me bro. Between the atmosphere and the blood.
You know what I'm leaving? Where? I mean, when?
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. It felt like a clumsy sentence to me. This is still a little clumsy, but it's better. Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, I could have left it, but I hate a clumsy sentence. Yeah.
I thought gases was spelled with 2 S's.
No.
Well, it's not. That's how I.
I mean, there are 2 S's, but they're not adjacent to one
Oh,
another.
that's how I spelled it.
Oh.
Well, now I'm doubting myself.
Well, no.
I
think
thought
I thought
it
it
was
was
spelled it like that.
I thought it's.
Wait, that wasn't done.
I will go back.
No, but you never give enough time after.
Isn't it the same word?
Oh, for God's sakes, why are we calling the whole
Bro, what is it? Aiden, take the time.
Oh God, go away. Who was?
Whoever Candace is. That's awesome.
It's probably not her. It's probably like some like random dude making us.
No, but I've seen the.
I know. I doubt Candace is sitting there making a website.
Can we go back up and see what Candace is saying?
Oh, interesting. So they're actually both acceptable. They're both considered appropriate plural nouns. But the recommended use is to use gases with 1 S if you're just referring to the plural of gas, and to use the double S when we're using it as a verb. It's more acceptable. So both are actually acceptable in noun form, but as a rule, we want to use the double S when we're referring to the verb, which means like a few different things. Yeah.
What's a verb?
Oh,
I actually want to now that adjective.
Okay. Okay.
No, it's too late now.
No, I don't know any of that.
It's a crash course. It's gonna be a crash course.
Okay, I know what a noun and an adjective are. I know, that's about it. Am I supposed to like take up? I used to struggle so hard with like madness. A verb?
Okay. So let's look. We have a sentence here. Mr. Orlando, a sad man, smacks his forehead. Okay.
Mr. Orlando's the noun.
Okay. Yeah, we got a few nouns here. So we're going to do a few things here. First, we're going to find nouns and we're going to underline them in red. What are the nouns here? No. Man. Man is a noun. Mr. Orlando is a noun. Forehead. Because a noun is a person, a place, or a thing.
Is a forehead a thing or a person?
It's a thing!
Everything's a thing.
No, everything isn't a thing.
That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Happiness is not a thing. Except it is. But green isn't a thing. A green is a thing, like a green on a golf course or whatever. But there we go. Okay, so now, ready? We're going to look at adjectives. Okay, because they describe, what do they describe? They describe nouns. So, okay, so, and we're going to add a word to this sentence now that I think of it. Smacks his forehead, sadly. Okay, that was Mr. Orlando, a sad man, smacking his forehead, sadly. Oh, God. Okay, so now, where are the adjectives here then? Sad? No, because what is sadly? An adverb. Okay, we'll get there in a second. To know what an adverb is, first we need to know what a verb is. What's a verb? It's an action. So, smacks. There you go. So now an adverb, if an adjective describes the noun, an adverb describes a verb. It describes an action. So, sadly isn't an action, but sadly describes the action of smacking my forehead. How did I... So look here. And maybe I could put another word in here. Let's do it. Smacks his fat head, or fat forehead. Fat doesn't make sense for a forehead. His large. He smacks his large forehead. What would large be? Adjective. Adjective, because large is describing the forehead. What does sad describe? The man. Who is Mr. Orlando. Good. Okay. Yeah.
So does that mean I was right? Because in the note we wrote exchanges gases, which would have been a verb, which is an action.
Exchanging is a verb. Very good.
So you were no, because the gases forget teachable.
No, but in that sentence, exchanges is the verb, which means that gases is the noun. The verb is the exchanging, the gas is the thing you're exchanging. The thing is a noun. So now listen, and then for the point of order, his is actually a noun, but it's a type of word that we call a pronoun, because it's a word that we use to take the place of. So Mr. Orlando, a sad man, a is a conjunction here. A sad man smacks his large forehead sadly.
So many things. Mr. Orlando.
Yeah.
How is adjectives like the same word as noun? Why isn't it just add noun?
That's a good question. Add noun would be a better name. I agree. They should be add nouns and adverbs. They're not, but they should be. I agree completely. Now, let's go here. Ready?
No.
Bit more. We're doing a bit more, team.
Oh my God, can we just do my...
No!
This is the most I've learned in English in my whole life.
Why do you have a teachable in English?
Because you just didn't do that.
But you should have.
Okay. Subject and predicate. What's the subject of this sentence? No. The subject of the sentence is the thing. It's a noun that is doing the verb.
So you are the subject.
Yeah. So who is doing the stuff here? Mr. Orlando is the person doing the thing. What is he doing? What's the rest of this? The predicate is smacking his forehead. A sad man is just a modifier. That's just modifying the sentence. It's telling you about me. The real sentence here is Mr. Orlando smacks his forehead. The subject is Mr. Orlando. The predicate is what he's doing. He is smacking his forehead. Now, within the predicate, we have the verb, which is the action, which we already know. What was our verb in this case? Smacking. So, smacks. And now, the noun isn't just a noun. It is specifically understood to be an object. Because there's two types of nouns. A noun can be a subject. It's the thing doing the doing. And it can be an object which something is done to. So in this case, Mr. Orlando is the subject of the sentence because Mr. Orlando is doing something. His forehead is having something done to it, which makes it the object. Subject and object. Verbs don't always have to. Some verbs don't need an object. Mr. Orlando ran. No object needed. Mr. Orlando cried. No object needed. Mr. Orlando screamed. No object needed. But Mr. Orlando smacked his forehead. Object. Mr. Orlando is the subject. Smacking is the verb. His forehead is the object, because that's a different sentence than Mr. Orlando's forehead smacked him. That doesn't even make sense. Or Mr. Orlando smacked his desk is a very different sentence than Mr. Orlando smacked his forehead. And Mr. Orlando smacked a student would be a very different sentence. You can't say that one. That'd be inappropriate. But Mr. Orlando, a sad man, sadly smacks his large forehead. You can put it either place. Fun thing about an adverb, you can sometimes put an adverb in front of the verb, or you can put it after the object or after the verb. So you could, Mr. Orlando, a sad man, smacks sadly his large forehead. Doesn't really work, but sadly smacks his large forehead works. And smacks his large forehead sadly works. That's a question of preference. It's a question of taste. English is a syntactic language where the order in which we put words makes a big difference. Do you know in ancient Greek, for example, syntax was completely irrelevant. You could put the words in any order you wanted and it didn't change the meaning of the sentence. Imagine if our language worked like that. Mr. Orlando ate his sandwich would be the same sentence as the sandwich ate Mr. Orlando. But in English, those aren't the same sentence. They're syntactic. They used word endings. So in Greek, they added little endings to the word to tell you whether it was a verb, a noun, a subject, or an object. All that stuff was built into the words. This is really important now, and you should know it. Anyway, that's a different discussion. But can I tell you? No, you haven't. You don't know the name of it, but you absolutely know it. Right? Because if somebody said, his large forehead smacked Mr. Orlando, you'd be like, no, it didn't. No, it didn't. That doesn't. So you do know it. I mean, I guess.
No. It said his large forehead, so it could have been, let's say, Seth Fox.
Sure, that's true. But the point is, you'd know it means something different. Do you know what I mean? And that's the point. So you do know this. You actually instinctively know this. You just don't know how to give it name. And I'm going to propose to you that knowing it in a more formal sense like this is really useful. And you should all study it. Because it really does, in certain situations, it's very helpful. Anyway, I should get back to biology.
That would be great. We're going to run out.
Okay.
Oh my god.
We're going to look at the anatomy of this. The anatomy of our respiratory system. And in so doing, I'm going to attempt to draw a picture. Okay. You know what? Okay, I'm not. Our person is bald. Okay, there we go. So now, here we are. And then we're going to have.
Is it okay if I just make his head a circle?
Oh, yeah, sure. Now listen. Okay, ready? We're going to start labeling things. Now, when you breathe, what is the first structure of your body involved? There's two choices, right? We could breathe through our mouth or our nose. Quiet.
That's a person. Oh, do not take off
The
the
nose
mask for
was
that. I'm
important.
so
You
sorry.
lied to me.
That's fine. I lied to you?
Yeah, because I was like, can I just make his head a circle?
Oh, that's fine. Make a circle and then go like this and that. Now you've got a nose and a mouth.
Yeah, that's what I've done.
There you go. That's fine. Okay, so there we go. That's fine. Okay, now we can breathe through either. If you breathe through your nose, immediately where does the air go? Obviously into your... Immediately. Like, you're right. You're totally right. But before that, when you breathe in through your nose, it goes through your nostrils and it goes into your nose, right? And it's going to make its way to your throat. Between your nose and your throat, it's got to go through your cranium, right? It's got to go through your skull. It doesn't go in your mouth. It goes above your mouth. If you put your tongue and feel the soft palate or the hard palate at the top of your mouth right now, when you breathe through your nose, the air is above that, right? There's a chamber up above that. Does anyone know what we call that chamber above there? Yeah, we do actually. That's part of it. We're going to give it the full name of the nasal cavity. The nasal cavity. But your sinus is a part of that, absolutely. Oh, that's bigger than I want it to be. Darn you. I find that when you talk about these things, or when I talk about these things, I immediately start thinking about them and it weirds me out. So that is what we would call the nasal cavity. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
Isn't your cranium in your head? Like in your brain?
Your cranium is your full skull. Yeah. So we've got the nose leading into the nasal cavity and we've got the mouth. And where those two things meet up, at this structure back here that we commonly call the throat. Does anyone know the formal name for the throat? Ooh, you'll get there actually. The larynx comes down later. Up at the throat where they meet, we call it the similar name, very similar.
Pharynx?
The pharynx. And the pharynx is what we commonly refer to as your throat. That is where your nasal cavity and your mouth meet, at the back of your mouth, right? And then, as we go travel down, the throat travels down until you get to a structure that we commonly call the voice box, which is more properly called the larynx. And the larynx is this structure right here that sits at the top of our windpipe. We'll get to what we call that in a minute. This is called the larynx. Larynx. And the other name we give that sometimes is the voice box. Yeah. So that's where half of your voice comes from. It produces the sound, so the pitches, and then your mouth moving shapes those sounds into consonants and vowels. So if you're humming, that is pure voice box, like ah, right? As soon as your mouth gets involved, it changes the shape. So if you go right, the sound changes as you move your lips, as you move your tongue, as you move your cheeks, all of that stuff. Changing the shape of your mouth changes the shape of the sound.
It's so crazy that you learn to do that as like a little kid.
Totally instinctively, right?
Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So then we go into this structure that is a tube. We go into a big old tube, and it's got these kind of cartilaginous rings, and we call it the trachea. Very good.
I'm talking about mine.
So that is called the trachea. So if you, and I did this once, and it resulted in me vomiting. I once attempted in class to shove a boroscopic camera down my own throat. This is a true story, and it didn't go well. It was a failure. It was an unsuccessful attempt to show you my larynx. Not you. It was years ago. Yeah, I had to go in the back and puke in a garbage can. It was not a good feeling. No, I thought once was a charm on that one. But you know, you gotta try. Maybe briefly, I don't know. My main memory is what I got to see was a garbage can as I was like, oh! Anyway, yeah. So put your hand down for a sec. If you did put a camera down, and we'll watch a video in a minute of somebody doing that more successfully. And have you ever been to an ear, nose, and throat specialist and had them put a camera down your nostrils? Have you not?
I would want to be a part of
It's kind of cool. But anyway, eventually they go through the voice box, which itself is really cool. We'll look at a video of that in a few minutes. They go down into the trachea, which literally looks like a vacuum hose. It's a tube, and it's got these rings of cartilage around it, whose job is to keep it from kinking shut, just like a vacuum hose. But then you come to a moment where that tube
splits into the stomach and the lungs.
No. One tube for the lungs. The esophagus is a whole different tube, but it does split. What's it splitting to? Each lung. So it's going to split left and right because you have two lungs. Does anyone know what we call these? We call them the bronchi. Bronchi is plural. What's the singular of bronchi?
Bronchiole.
No, we'll get to those in a minute. Singular of bronchi is bronchus. So you have a left bronchus and a right bronchus, two bronchi. Now those will in turn split and split and split into a big network of tubes, which of course eventually form what structure? The lungs. And you've got a left lung.
That is lovely.
Oh. Wait, why is it so deep?
Is it true that one of your lungs are bigger than the other? No.
Yeah. Yeah, one has 3 lobes, one has 2 lobes. They're visibly different.
I was asking because I drew them really lopsided. I was like, wait, this might be accurate. So I asked.
Is it always the same one or is it a different one?
Yes, it is always the same one, and I'm going to be totally honest with you, totally blanking right now. So the branches, we're just going to write here, branches are called bronchioles. The whole structure, the structure in its entirety is called the lung, which I'm going to label thusly. I'm going to say lungs, even though that only points to one. I think you can kind of intuit that. Now, what structure do we find right here? Thank you.
It looks like a pork chop, and I'm hungry.
Pork chops, delicious. Okay, now, this is important because we know that we actually have an artery that leaves the heart and branches to the two, right? And we know that we have veins that come back to the heart, right? There's connection there. I'm not going to label those because we've already studied those in our previous, but what do we call the artery that leaves the heart and feeds the left lung and the right lung? The left and right pulmonary arteries. And what do we call the veins that come back to the heart? The left and right pulmonary veins. Good. Now, this is all very sensitive stuff. Your lungs are soft tissue. Your heart is less soft, but still pretty delicate. Boy, suck if somebody came and like punched you in the lungs. Well, they can't punch you in the lungs. Why can't they punch you in the lungs? You got ribs. You've got this protective cage around them. We're going to draw it here as though they've been cut open, like an order of ribs, where you've got the section that is the bone, and then between the bone, you actually have I can never remember. I should know. I teach this. Sorry? Do I need to draw them on this side as well? Or is that a losing battle? Am I going to regret this? Yeah, you know what? I'm not doing it. Is everyone comfortable with the fact that we have ribs on both sides, but I'm only drawing them on one side? And I'll draw them like just ending down here. Right? Like just like that. Okay. And then, what protects them from the bottom? What stops your stomach and your intestines and all that from ending up in that area as well? Somebody's already said the word, actually. You sing from this. You play the trumpet from this. The diaphragm. Does anyone know what your diaphragm is? Diaphragm is one of my most enjoyably spelled English words because it's just ludicrous. What if, instead of an F, we used a PH? All right, fair enough. And you know what? For the am sound, throw a G in there.
That's how you spell it?
Yeah. Isn't that ridiculous? Love English. Love English. What a language. So it's the diaphragm, not the diaphragm, despite the fact that it clearly appears to spell diaphragm. All right. These are called the ribs. And the muscle between the ribs, does anyone know what it's called? It's called the between the ribs muscles. Totally true. But it's called that in Latin, of course. So between in Latin is... If I wanted to talk between here and the office, I would use the communication systems between them. I would use the intercom. So inter means between. So inter... And then the Latin word for that is costal. The ribs are called the costal bones in Latin. So intercostal muscle.
That's lovely.
When you eat ribs, that's what you're eating. You're eating the muscle between the ribs. I mean, maybe you eat the bone. I don't know. I don't eat the bone. I eat the muscle between the bones. Right? Yeah.
This is a question. With the trachea, is it possible for those like cartilage stuff to just not work and it hurt?
Yeah, no, if you like got punched in the throat or something. So don't get punched in the throat. But the cartilage is quite rigid. You can actually feel your trachea. You can palpate. If you feel here, it's covered by muscle, but you will feel a tube and you will feel that it's like got these ridges in it, right? You are palpating your trachea there, yeah.
When you palpate the trachea side to side, what causes it to pop?
I don't know, but maybe talk to a doctor. Now, here's the deal. I don't think I've ever palpated my trachea side to side and follow up, nor am I going to, because that freaks me out. So maybe everyone's does. I don't know.
Wait,
Go, golly. Okay, yeah.
like this? What are we doing?
I don't know. Anyway. Okay. So, does it pop?
Mine doesn't.
I mean, because it is a flexible tube, and that could relate to your internal anatomy. Like, are there muscles close by it? I don't know. I don't claim to know. Okay. Shh. So here's the basic anatomy. There is the basic anatomy right there. There are other parts. Obviously, there's lots of parts, but in its basic anatomy, air enters through the nose or mouth. If it enters through the nose, in the nasal cavity, blood vessels warm the air. And hairs and mucus filter it. Yeah, mucus. Guys, can I tell you, do you know what's happening? You don't know this because you think of mucus as occurring when you're sick, right? And you got a stuffy nose. That just means that there's more mucus than usual. Right now, your nose is producing a steady stream of mucus, which air is blowing through and it's absorbing stuff. And where does that mucus go? Why don't you notice it? It goes down your throat, down your esophagus, into your stomach. So you are eating your own snot every waking second of every day. You just don't think about it because it's small amounts of it.
Why do you say this every time it's mentioned? Like every time mucus is mentioned, you start talking about how you just
Have we mentioned mucus before?
literally you did this last year and then you did this another time in a totally separate situation.
What, like just in the hall?
No, I don't.
Did I see you? You were like, "Hey, Mr. Lando, how's your day going?" I'm like, "Not too bad." Did you know that mucus is going down your throat right now?
Situation. It was not in a class I mentioned mucus at all.
I'm sorry. I'm like a grade 8 boy, and I just find it funny to discuss gross things. I don't know what to tell you. Okay, so from here, air passes from the throat, which the proper name for which is what again? That's back there, don't worry. Air passes from the throat, pharynx, through the... She's editing a video, just settle down. Through the voice box, which we call larynx.
They sound like brothers. No, they're not. They're not.
Into the trachea. All right, now, a few things to note. One. No. Is that enough? Yes. Okay. First of all, this is a mouth. All right? I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best. Just settle down. You will notice that at the back of your mouth, before it meets up with the nasal cavity, you've got this structure here, right? What is that structure there? That's your nose.
That's the thing in the back of your throat. No, I got it like when I was like a little kid. They're like, I'm not forgetting what it's called because I was like, okay. That's not you. Oh my god.
Can you go back up?
Okay. Shh. Shh. Okay. We just want to make sure we know this. Okay, this is called the uvula.
Oh, okay. Okay, that sounds like something different. When there's like when we were kids, like a lot of kids. I don't know what word I'm thinking of, but I know.
Okay. Shh. It prevents things going into the nasal cavity.
Please never throw me.
So this folds back. It prevents things from going into the nasal cavity. It also, if solid objects are making their way back, it tends to trigger the gag reflex, which then causes things to be expelled, which also prevents them going into the nasal cavity. If things go awry, they can. If somebody's ever made you laugh really hard, where you had your mouth full of milk, you ever shot milk out of your nose? Or maybe you had that weird Kenny Burke. It's school with Kenny Burke. Kenny Burke could do two things. Kenny Burke could stare at you and then make his eyes shake like this, and it was creepy. And Kenny Burke could take his cross necklace off, and he could put the chain up his nose and have it come out his mouth, and then he could go like this, which was revolting. He would also do this with spaghetti, which he occasionally packed in his lunch. Thank you, Kenny Burke. Kenny Burke was the first person to teach me that the nasal cavity and the throat are connected to each other. So, the uvula is designed to prevent things from going there. There's a second flap of skin called the epiglottis. This prevents food and water going into the trachea.
What if that just doesn't work? You just drown? Isn't that when you're like, oh, it went down the wrong way?
Yeah, and of course, to be clear, it's not going down your trachea, it's getting lodged in there, and you're dislodging it. To be clear, if it were to go down your trachea, you would have a serious problem. You would choke to death. So the epiglottis is responsible for ensuring it can't actually go down. And the reason it can't actually go down as well, as you'll see, the voice box does not make a big opening. So it's very unlikely that food would actually make its way down. Water can, but that is very bad for you, obviously, water in the lungs.
If a little piece of food or whatever were to, and if it were to get into the lungs,
I'm assuming
wouldn't that cause like pneumonia and severe infection?
it would certainly be a high risk for infection and damage, but I assume that the epithelial tissues of the trachea would break it down, but I don't know the mechanism of that. Yeah.
No, it's not a question. Like, I cannot ask my own question. It's not a
So
question.
Chloe was
No,
wondering if
it's
it
not a
drowns.
question. It was
Chloe,
a joke.
shut up.
It was a joke.
Why can't we breathe water?
No, it's a good question. Shh.
Water.
It's a good question. Shh. There's lots of oxygen in the water. Our lung tissues are too delicate. They're simply not designed to kind of withstand the pressure of being full of water, so it causes damage. And B, gases don't pass in the same way, so we need differently designed structures. Now, interestingly, there's a fluid, apparently, that is much more oxygen-rich than water, that apparently you can actually breathe a liquid. So there apparently is a liquid. And I don't know if this has ever been done with a human, but I've seen video of a trial being done with a mouse, where they literally submerge it in the water and it is able to breathe in and out this liquid and actually get its oxygen. I believe that also is in a movie that's in The Abyss, but it's fake. But anyway.
And I asked it.
Would it be useful if we could figure out a liquid that would allow us to breathe?
Well, sure, yeah. If we then, for some reason, were swimming in that liquid. The voice box, if you look at the surface of it, is basically an opening like this with two flaps of skin. And those flaps of skin are called the vocal folds. Settle down.
No.
Settle down.
I wondered why they were laughing. I look up.
Settle down. Just wait till you see the real thing. You're going to laugh more. Sorry, that's how it works. But the vocal folds tighten and loosen to control pitch. So if you actually look at an endoscope video of the vocal folds in action, there we are. That's a real image. That obviously is an animation. So you can see there the vocal folds in action. Yeah, like a model. Maybe an animation, but definitely a model. But not a real thing. But you can see actual. So this is the vocal folds of somebody while they are singing. So that is.
Breathe through your nose a little bit.
Sorry, that's what it looks like. No, I'm not. Right? So you can see that when the person breathes, the structure opens right up, right, to allow air through. But then when the person is using their voice, it closes in, the folds tighten, and vibration occurs. Does that make sense? So this is my drawing thereof. You're welcome. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if this is like a super sciencey question. But like if you threw like a little kid, like I'm talking like really like toddler little, and I'm not saying like do this, I'm saying like if you did, would they like if you threw them into a pool of water, would they have to like breathe the water if they were stuck under there?
No, this is actually a thing. Has anyone ever seen like baby swim classes?
Yes.
Apparently, I've never done this. But apparently, babies actually entirely instinctively know not to breathe water in, and you can do like baby swim. I've never done this, and like I'm not very athletic. My wife isn't very athletic, so I assume my kids would not know that, and they would just immediately drown. So we didn't do baby swim. But apparently, this is a thing that they just get it. They just instinctively understand. Don't breathe in because they didn't breathe in utero. I don't know. I couldn't speak to it. Yeah.
Are we gonna watch the video of like the little camera?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Why would you ask that? Why would
Guys, this stuff is interesting. This is how your body works. How is that disgusting?
Did you watch the same video?
Did everyone put their hand up to tell me how it's disgusting? Yes.
When you scream, does it vibrate and
No. To produce pitch, it's got to be tight. When you scream, you open your mouth out to let the air out. But if you're making pitch, it is held tight. I saw a hand back there. Oh, there's so many hands. Yeah. No, we're running out of time. Come back to it. We'll come back. Okay. It's not going anywhere. Don't mock. Don't just do an impression of me. I will throw heavy things at you. Let's keep going. I'm gonna put a pin there. Okay, I gotta finish this. Okay, so I do want to hear it. So now, the trachea is lined with cartilage rings. To prevent kinking shut. Branches into two bronchi. The singular of which is bronchus. So these branch further into bronchioles, terminating.
What is going on?
I said branch instead of branch, and I'm not sure why. And then I was just running with it. So I thought, who says branch? Somebody who speaks like this would say branch. So they branch further into the bronchioles, terminating at small air sacs called. Who recalls? Scars, sacs. Called. So they branch further and further, so the bronchi into bronchioles, and they form the lungs, and eventually they terminate at small air sacs called the... Quiet! Alveoli. Singular, alveolus.
Right.
Why did you want to write the three last letters of singular?
I don't know.
Was it that difficult?
Oh,
No,
Wow,
that was
Yarsh.
sassy, I promise.
I failed to believe.
I don't know. I've always done that.
Wow.
I feel like when you read the dictionary, which I do, that's how they always abbreviate it.
Okay, Eminem.
I'm a lot like Eminem. It's one of the first things you're going to notice about me.
What is happening right now?
Yeah.
Can you scroll back up to the larynx?
No, I don't know. I have no time. No, we'll come back to it. Leave a space.
I wonder.
I'm running out of time.
At least we know what a verb is. Right? We didn't.
Shut up.
Please go back up to that last point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so write faster. These are surrounded. Guy, no, I'm going to tell you right now. You're going to go to university for this stuff. You got to be able to write fast. All right? These are some, not all. Some will give you the notes. Some won't. Some will. Really depends on the prof. So these are surrounded by blood vessels, specifically capillaries. And are where gas exchange happens. All right. So we have a bronchiole, right? And that bronchiole will branch, and that branch will eventually lead to this. It almost looks like a cluster of grapes under a microscope. But we get these clusters of air sacs, and these are the alveoli. All right? And then the alveoli, if you recall, we have a pulmonary arteriole, and I'm drawing it in blue because this doesn't have oxygen yet. So this would be an arteriole, and it's going to branch into little capillaries. And those capillaries are literally going to like kind of surround this thing. Does that make sense? They're going to kind of branch around, and then we'll see them come here, and they'll go around it again, and they come here, they come back out here, and they just go right around them because what are they doing? They're doing gas exchange. They're absorbing oxygen into the blood, and they are removing what from the blood? And then they're going to branch off and end up in a venule going back to the heart. And keep in mind that the arterioles have blood flowing down into here, and the venule is going to send blood back to the heart. It's a branch of a vein. So the venule will eventually, all the venules will join up to give you the pulmonary veins. And we know that we have two pulmonary veins coming from the left, one from the bottom of the left lung, one from the top of the left lung. They make their way back to the heart. And we have two pulmonary veins from the right lung, one from the bottom of the lung, one from the top of the lung, and they make their way back to the heart. So remember that there's two pulmonary veins on each side that rejoin the heart. Do we remember that? So this would branch into that. And these come from the arterioles. And it is right here, that we can actually see gas exchange in action. Because gas exchange happens when we have the walls of the alveolus, which are small and porous. So in here, we have the alveolus. That's the singular of alveoli, right? And it is full of oxygen, right? We've breathed in, and the alveolus is full of oxygen. And then, running right next to that is a capillary. And if you remember, we said capillary walls are also porous, like this. And in the capillary walls, if you remember, we have, what's the liquid portion of blood? Plasma, right? And that plasma is full of red blood cells. I'm going to draw them in purple because they're not going to be at their full reddest yet, because what don't they have yet in high concentration? Oxygen, right? So what's going to happen is the oxygen is going to move across and go into the blood. Does that make sense? And what is in the blood that can leave? CO2. And the CO2 is going to make its way into the lungs. That's how gas exchange works. So at the alveoli, O2 and CO2 can pass through the walls of them because they're both only one cell thick. And porous. What's it mean for something to be porous? It has holes. Yep. So both are only one cell thick and porous to facilitate gas exchange. What's it mean to facilitate something? Yeah, to make it possible. Facilitate comes from the Latin, but you probably know facile from French. Facile means easy. So to facilitate means to make something easy, to make it possible, to make it happen. How's that feel? Does that kind of make sense? So we breathe the air in, and it goes through these tubes that branch off and branch off and branch off and branch off, and at the end, it comes to these tiny little microscopic air sacs that are surrounded by tiny microscopic blood vessels. And there, fluid and gases are able to just travel between the two. And so because there's lots of oxygen in the lungs, it's going to move away from there because we know things like to spread out, and it's going to move into the blood. And because there's lots of CO2 in the blood, we know it's going to move away from there and move into the lungs. That's a passive process. The body doesn't have to work to make it happen. Things naturally spread out. You know this, right? If I take a balloon full of a lot of oxygen and I pop the balloon, will the oxygen stay there? That's going to spread out through the room, right? If I take, I don't know, hypothetically, if I'm a grade 9 boy and I take a can full of a lot of Axe body spray and I spray it all over myself right outside Mr. Orlando's room, is it going to stay on me? No, because things naturally like to spread out. And then I get to spend my whole day smelling the wonderful tones of some Axe body spray that probably has a name like Wolfhammer or like, I don't know, like they all have these very aggressive sounding animal names like Tiger Claw. You're like, that's what I want. I want to smell. Because grade 9 boys, first they stink. And then they're like, hey, wait a minute. Girls don't like it if I stink. I'm like, well, wait a minute. If a little bit of cologne makes girls think I smell good, then all of the Axe body spray will make me irresistible. And this is the best thinking we can come up with when we're young men, because we're not very bright then, right? The frontal cortex hasn't developed yet. Our frontal lobe isn't like doing its whole work there. And yeah, then I get the smell. Things naturally spread out. So oxygen, I do, yeah. I actually have a really nice grade 9 class. They're lovely.
Minus one kid.
Sorry?
There's one kid in that class. It's just
Oh, wow. Oh, gosh. Oh, who knew? Who knew?
right there.
Yeah, I know.
Was I just pointed to it?
Yes, but
Okay, I thought I was
she's
pointing.
discussing my first period class, which you're not in. Yeah, that Alora, what a troublemaker. So I got back at her. I had them drop welding material on her the other day. Did I tell you about that? Yeah. They were angle grinding up above, and all of a sudden she had sparks landing on her head. And I thought, oh God, Alora is going to catch fire. This is bad. Anyway, she didn't catch fire, and everything was fine. But it was a little nerve-wracking for me. No, you cannot. Okay, so how's that feel? Not too bad? Tomorrow? Maybe tomorrow. Do we have time? We do have time. Or did we do this in grade 10? Have you made a model of the lungs before? Did we do that? No. You did. Some of you haven't. Because it's actually important to understand, how do you actually breathe? What's the mechanism? Like, why does air go into your lungs? Good. The diaphragm pulls down, and the intercostal muscles pull the rib cage up. And that actually makes your chest cavity physically bigger. I wonder if I kept one of those lung models. I don't think I did. Your lungs are not a muscle. They're not a pump. They aren't pumping air in and out. They're little balloons. Billions of little balloons, little alveoli. And of course, to get air into a balloon, you have to move it, right? But there isn't a pump, not in the way your heart is a pump. Rather, it's all physics. It's pressure. Your diaphragm pulls down, and your rib cage pulls up and out, and that makes your chest cavity physically bigger. It literally makes the chest cavity, which is sealed, physically larger. And if you make something a larger container, air is going to rush in to fill that container, right? You know that from the opposite. If you have like a bag with some air in it, say one of those shipping bags or something, if you squeeze it shut, air rushes out. If you make the bag bigger, we don't even notice this happening, but it has to fill up with air. There's not emptiness inside it. So when you make your chest cavity larger by pulling the diaphragm down and the chest up, the physical explanation, like if you're a physics major, is that that makes the volume bigger. The volume being bigger makes the pressure lower, and pressure naturally equalizes in nature, which means that the surrounding air pressure is going to force air down your trachea, down into your lungs, and fill it up. But all your body has to do to make that happen is pull the diaphragm down and the ribcage up. So if you're in my grade 10 class, we always build this. I give you like balloons and straws in a bottle, and I say we're going to make this, and you actually do it. And if you pull we use a balloon to be the diaphragm and another balloon to be the lungs, and if you pull the diaphragm down, with you doing nothing, the balloon inside the bottle puffs up. And if you release the diaphragm, it puffs back down and it shoots air out. And you can literally make this thing breathe just by pulling on the diaphragm.
I remember that. I remember making
Yeah,
that.
yes.
So if I breathe all the way out, does that create a vacuum?
No, not a vacuum. In fact, it's the opposite. When you're breathing out, we're doing the opposite. We're squeezing the diaphragm up and we're pushing the rib cage back down. So you're actually doing the opposite. You're squeezing there. What's going to be the vacuum? Briefly, you make a little vacuum very briefly when you breathe in. When the rib cage lifts up and the diaphragm comes down, for a brief period of time, your lungs are a low pressure zone, and that's what we call a vacuum. And then the air rushes in to fill it. Did that answer your question? So actually, when you breathe out, you're turning the surrounding environment into a bit of a vacuum relative to your lungs, and it sucks the air out. Yeah.
So, like, is that what the term metabolism is? Is how much energy your body needs to like run? Kind of?
It's related to that, but it's not that directly. But if you've talked about like your VO2 max and things like that, we'll actually talk about that in another day. So the mechanism. Breathing occurs. Breathing in, which we call inspiration, occurs when the diaphragm pulls down and the rib cage is lifted up. This creates a bigger chest cavity. Yeah, the actual literal definition of inspiration is breathing something in. So when we say something is inspiring, we mean it makes you go like, right? That's the root of saying something is inspiring. And of course now we just use it to mean, as we do. But that's where it comes from etymologically. Yeah. Sorry, what's that? Could you stop wasting my time, McKenna? Jeez. Thank you. Quiet. That is not wasted time. That's important. You should know that. What grade are you in?
11.
Yeah, you should know that. Anyway, that's like language is the single most important thing you will learn in your education. I think science is important. Okay, I'm focused. This creates a bigger chest cavity, which causes low pressure in the lungs. Air from the atmosphere rushes in to equalize pressure. Diaphragm? In my head, I call it diaphragm every time, and then I remember how to spell it, if that's helpful. If you really want, you could call it a diaphragm, if that's helpful. Probably not. Yes.
Why can't you change the spelling?
English spelling was non-standardized for hundreds of years. And the answer is it was standardized when people started publishing dictionaries. And the people who got to decide on the spelling were the people who published dictionaries. And they did so based on most common usage. Anyway, breathing out, what do we call that? Expiration. So when we say somebody is like expiration date, it means like when they breathe the last breath out, right? Is the literal root of that. Breathing out happens when the diaphragm and rib cage relax. All right. Whew, down to the wire on that one, but we made it, team. Just made it. And we got a grammar lesson in the middle. You're welcome. De rien, monsieur. De rien, yeah.
You should keep all of your chairs the same level as the table. That was the best lesson I've ever had, and I was like in like line with the table.
Interesting.
Like
Like a little lower?
Yeah, like literally like I was sitting like
You know what? I ordered chairs for Ms. Bainbridge's room / Mr. Rotola's room, and at first I was worried they were too low because they were lower than I expected. But I actually found that it's kind of nice when you're a bit
I was like in
closer to like chest height with what you're writing.
that was like the best lesson I've ever had.
Oh, I'm so glad. Congrats on making the playoffs, by the way, and condolences on your out. But that's very impressive. We've never made the playoffs before, and you guys landed what? 3rd place?
Yeah, and that
Very
was, like,
cool.
the best season that we've had.
Yeah, it was very cool.
Really positive. That's like what makes
I love that. Congratulations. That's really wonderful. Yeah.
We made it longer than we had.
Sorry? I won't be here Friday, and I won't be here Monday. By the way, is anyone here doing curling on Tuesday? I'm in. I'm coming. Get excited. You should come too. Yeah. Yes. Which one were you looking for? Which was here? You guys are so busy laughing at my drawing.
I wasn't even looking.
I know. Quiet, Oblinsky. I'm doing my best. I love your sweater.